Okay, great. Hi, everyone, and welcome to UX Insiders. For anyone who is attending for the first time, my name is Rachel, and I'm a researcher here at the UX Design Institute. Um, so, at the UX Design Institute, we offer a range of online courses for people looking to launch their careers in UX. And this series is hosted by us. And each event, we are joined by some of the most interesting and creative people in the field of UX. So, the idea behind these events is to give some insight into what it's actually like to work in the UX industry by speaking to some of the best people working in UX right now. And today we are really lucky to be joined by Ivy Mukherjee, who previously worked as a product design manager with the online dating app Bumble. So today, Ivy is going to tell us what it's like to work within the UX of dating. So really looking forward to learning a bit about that. Um, Before we officially begin, I just want to mention that there will be time for questions and answers throughout the event. So I just ask anybody that's tuning in to please type your questions into the questions panel. And if you see a question that you're particularly interested in, please upvote it so that I know that this is one that a couple of people are interested in hearing, and we'll try and find time to ask Ivy. So Ivy, you're very welcome to UX Insiders, and we're delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. Yeah.
Great. So, to kick off, maybe you could just introduce yourself briefly. And for anybody who doesn't already know, it would be great if you could just explain a bit about Bumble and what it is.
Yeah, sure. Um, my name is Ivy, originally from India, have been living in London for the past 2.5 years now. Have been in this industry for 9+ years now, and have been a generalist. So basically, have worked across different industries within the tech ecosystem. Recently, I was with Bumble. I was basically leading and managing their product design team, and mainly the date design team. So just to give you some sense, if you don't know about Bumble, Bumble is basically a mission-driven company, and which basically the mission is to create safe, healthy, equitable relationships. Right? It can be romantic, it can be platonic, or it can be professional. Predominantly, the product has been regarding romantic relationships, which is the date product. So yeah, that's basically Bumble and what it does. Connecting people with, ideally, if you want to date them, right? So if you or any of your friends are swiping left or right, that's basically me and my team. So yeah, that's Bumble. That's where I used to work previously. Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks a million for that. And yeah, as I said, we're delighted to have you, but particularly so close to Valentine's. It's a nice theme for this evening.
Absolutely.
Um, Brilliant. Okay, so I know you have a presentation prepared for us today, which is great.
Yeah.
That's on Bumble's Night In feature.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll hand over to you whenever you're ready to take us through that. And as I said, yeah, I'll jump in with some questions that the viewers might have. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Lovely. So yeah, I just a bit of a context. The presentation shouldn't take more than 20 minutes. It's a combination of, again, like who I am, what I value as a designer and as a design leader, and then getting into the case study, just to give you a bit of a snippet of what I did. One of the projects, basically. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. So let me just share my screen and get going with it. Do you see a hi there, I'm Ivy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely, fantastic. So yeah, as it says, hi there, I'm Ivy. I'm a design leader. I've worked with some of the companies which you have might have heard of. One is Bumble, another one is Shopify, and then Grab, and much more so. But yeah, that's that. Before getting into the professional journey, I like to talk a bit about my am I in personal life. So, as I was saying, so I come from a very small village in India, particularly the eastern part of India, and have been calling London home for the past 2.5 years. Yeah, I would love to believe I'm hilarious, if not funny. I love my food and my gin and tonic a bit more than I should, to be honest, as you can understand what is happening over here over the visuals. But more from the professional side of things, right? From left to right, this is how I start saying that this is a snippet of my journey so far. This is the village where I was born, and I spent the first 15 years of my life there. Let me just pause the animation. Yeah, and always loved drawing as a kid, and by basically accident got into multimedia during my university degree. So far, I have worked, as I was saying, 9+ years in this industry, over 4 different continents. So I have moved quite a bit, to be honest, and genuinely love building global scalable products. Right. And some of the notable stints has been in this company called Grofers or Blinkit. In people who are from the UK region, think of what Deliveroo is trying to do with grocery delivery. People from the Europe region, Gorillas maybe, a best bet, or Volt maybe. So that went on to work for Ola Cabs, which is basically like Uber, as simple as that. Then moved to work for a Shopify in Canada. And also then moved to Singapore to work for Grab, which is a super app of Southeast Asia. Not getting into the details of what they do, but if anybody is interested afterwards, happy to. But yeah, apart from the work which I do, I try to give back to the community as much as possible. So I started Indians Who Design, which is basically an online directory of thriving Indian designers all across the world. It got actually tremendous traction. A lot of hiring managers, recruiters, mentors, mentees found it really useful to find each other like minded people. And this is basically a small snippet of John Maeda appreciating the work, a bit of a fangirl moment, so I kept it there. And very recently, right, Bumble. I was leading design at Bumble, and these are some of the snippets and moments to remember for me. One such moment is basically when Bumble was going public during the IPO session. It's my gigantic face on Nasdaq billboard, which is a bit of a proud moment, and they featured me, which is a great thing to do. So that's that, and just yeah, having fun with the team, and which is a great segue to talk about my philosophy as a designer, what I believe in after working in this industry for a good amount of time, right? So this is what I call primer of building a scalable and impactful product. One is actually finding joy in connecting the dots, right? How can you be a good designer? So if you can connect the dots that, why people do the way they do things, right? Be it product or people or the processes and the behaviors around it, you can form a lot of patterns, and you can give very good insights, for example. So that's one. And the second part is much more so about people, that you can't grow alone. So how do you build and nurture these relationships, and realizing that work is getting more of a fun thing, right? So yeah, those are the things which I believe in, very close to my heart. And with that, showtime, right?
I might actually ask you a quick question, Ivy, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Just on what you've said so far. Because I know you mentioned a little bit about liking, to draw and that kind of thing when you were younger, and
yeah,
then, liking to kind of connect the dots and that kind of thing.
yeah.
But what was it really that drew you to UX, or how did you first hear about it and decide that sounded like a career for you?
100%. So I actually did 4 years of multimedia during my university degrees, which is basically like doing a lot of hodgepodge things of, animation, graphic design, 2D, 3D parts as well, illustrations and whatnot. I really like doing illustrations and graphic design. And to be very honest, I didn't do anything beyond that. Okay. So I started off as a graphic designer in lots of consulting or advertising agencies. Was good at my job, but couldn't see myself doing that for the long term period.
Mhm.
Having said that, I also didn't know what else could be done. And one fine day, basically, I saw one of the artists whom I used to follow on Facebook. Back then, Facebook was big thing. And he posted that there is this fellowship opportunity which was happening in Israel, in the Hebrew University. So I applied, got through, went there, didn't know much, but I just saw that, hey, they wanted, engineers, scientists, designers and whatnot. I saw designers, I applied, got through, went there for a 3.5 months, because there is nothing much happening in my life anyway, so I'm like, why not? So went there. That's the first time I actually got to know about startup ecosystem, this whole technology, like tech industry, what exactly product is or digital product is, what is UI UX design. Back then it used to be that's a thing. So and started working on some projects together, right? And that's when I realized two things: that hey, I actually love it because I can find a purpose, because this is what we are trying to do, this is whom we are trying to do it for, and this is how it can solve a problem.
Mhm.
um, and the second thing which I realized is that I am not half bad at it, so why not? So that's how basically I started applying to some startups back in India whom I looked up to, and got into the company called Blinkit. So that's how it started, and that's how I got into UX. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So it kind of brought you that meaning
Yes,
and yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, anything you want to do for a good amount of time, you have to like doing it. Otherwise, it's very hard, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay,
cool.
great.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to with this project, right? So, which is basically called Night In, Bumble Night In, where basically what I have done is we have tried to help users meet new people with a shared experience. In this case, it's games. Okay. And yeah, this is basically a primer of Bumble. Bumble is basically a social media platform. It's a mission-driven company create healthy, safe, and equitable relationships. That's all Bumble is about. But more so about the project, right? Where did it come from? What was happening, and all of that. Just a bit of a snippet is that Bumble, for a good amount of time, wanted to go into Gen Z users, wanted to tap into their Gen Z users to establish themselves as a distinct dating platform where fun happens. Why? Because obviously fun and Gen Z goes well together. Dating is becoming more fluid day by day, and this is the user base where we could potentially add more value and bring them on board. That's the whole situation and the context. And we also saw, by the way, over 70% Gen Z users, they basically like using videos, immersive platforms to connect with each other generally. And the hypothesis was, hey, can we do a game based interactive video call, which can be a great opportunity for user engagement. I'll give you more idea about why we went into that direction. But
Mhm.
yeah, the duration was, you can see it was 4 to 5 weeks of design, which is not a normal situation. We wanted to adapt to user needs as fast as possible, hence this is the tight timeline which we had. Currently the status is very nice, which is it's live in 6 countries. It has very good adoption rate. We acquired a Gen Z startup as well, for example. Quickly, my role as a design lead, I wanted to show it as a, like, anything under the sun which was happening was basically I was doing it. The more and more you learn about the tech industry, there are different kind of models in which teams are sitting together. So you will be working with the product manager, or you'll be working with a bunch of engineers, front end, full stack, or back end. There's a researcher, there was product marketing team as well. So my role was basically helping define the strategy, conceptualize the solution, helping define the design the whole user experience from inception to launch, a lot of the things under the sun, to be honest. And later on also hired more product designers to grow the product after the MVP launch, right? So that's that. But quickly, let's understand the opportunity a bit more in depth. This is how we went about it, right? And if I go more into depth, that this is how the existing user engagement model looked like. Okay, so from left to right again, if you see, this is how Bumble actually used to work. That you match with a person and you start chatting with them, then you basically use several different tools to express yourself and connect with them. It can be voice messages, it can be sending those cute little gifs, or you do voice calls or video calls, etc. But then there is a basically huge unknown, that we didn't have enough ways of helping users to go to the next level of their relationships via Bumble. So how do we do that? And now you can ask that why, what was required, etc. So when we dug deeper into this problem space, a lot of the people kept on saying, um, that hey, Bumble doesn't offer anything exciting to do after this video or voice calls. Bumble is not fun enough. Think of, like, TikTok or this Be Real. They offer so much playfulness, authenticity, and whatnot. A lot of the people wanted to do vibe check before meeting their match in real life. And a lot of people, rightfully so, also said that doing only video calls gets boring after a period. So what it meant for a business as Bumble is that it was a huge opportunity for Bumble. First thing first is that, as I was saying previously, 70% plus Gen Z, they basically engage with this videos, games, and interactive platforms, as we have seen from existing surveys and data results and whatnot. And we want to capture these users. So this can be a great primer to attract them, right? And the second part is that during all the pandemic and lockdown sessions, which we have seen, that we have 72% and above people, they started using video calls within the app and spending an average of 20 minutes on each call, and that hasn't changed since then. And they also like doing shared activities in such calls to understand each other. And the last part is that 24% of our existing users, they don't use Bumble for several weeks after exchanging mobile numbers with each other. And the main reason we heard from them was that Bumble doesn't offer anything exciting to do after this. So overall, it basically boiled down for us to deeper into this interactive shared experiences space to hook new users and also to retain existing users. And now, if we look into the new user engagement model, this is where we basically saw Night in fitting in quite well, right? Um, I'll quickly get into the success criteria thing, which you'll hear quite a lot about. That any kind of project you get into, it has to have a rough success criteria metrics as well, right? And this is basically, it's as a funnel of a new Bumble user onboarding to Bumble and engaging with the platform. And these are the main touch points, right? So you do the registration, which is the onboarding, then from somewhere you basically click on the night in icon or that feature and you play it. What is the completion rate of that, and what is the duration of that whole video call as well. So these are the main touch points we were seeing. Plus, on top of that, another thing is word of mouth. Okay. Because it's a social media thing, because it's a new feature which we're building, and because it is for mainly Gen Z and young millennials, we wanted to make sure that people actually know what Nightin is, and the word of mouth actually comes through. So this is also one of the primary reasons why we decided to elevate the brand identity of this feature as well, because Bumble is generally it's yellow and black and white, but you will see a different splash of colors and gradients all over there. um, Not getting into the challenges and constraints right now. I'm happy to talk about it afterwards, right? But it's mainly, the adoption has to be a big priority, early adoption for people. This tight timeline which I talked about, because it was a high visibility, high impact project. The production and identity was one such thing which we had to do on the go. Like, I was working with sound designers for the first time, because it's still a game. I was also working with the brand identity and whatnot apart from that. So yeah, those things. And quickly, I'll not show the release cycle. This is very technical, but let's give you a sense of how the team worked together. So by this time, a lot of more people got hired in the team with defined ways of working, customer journeys, prioritization models, so numerous research sessions and design iterations were happening. And the next slide, which I call it a beautiful mess, okay, because this is exactly how the whole ideation sessions were happening. It's never linear, okay, a lot of things happen parallelly. So first thing first, which is like this ways of working model, which is because just because the whole team was very new in Bumble and was working together for the first time, there was a bit of a back and forth and everybody had their own ways of working, which took a bit of a time for us to realize that what should be the mutual way of working, right? So that's when I realized this is a great time to actually establish a ways of working framework for all the stakeholders, which acts like a foundation on what to expect from each other and what in different stages till we launch. And just FYI, this is not just done, not injected by me. This is the framework which we did together, right? I can talk about it more afterwards. But yeah, once we set those expectations, we decided that Kano model as our prioritization framework to scope out the work and keeping everyone accountable. Kano model, you can quickly Google what it is, but yeah, it can give you an understanding of what exactly it's supposed to do, right? And then when everything was happening, the full team and the Bumble ambassadors, we brainstormed to come up with game ideas for first dates. And then we did a survey with this with our potential users, and trivia basically won by 80% votes in the user survey results. And also from the technical standpoint from the team, trivia was much easier and scalable to build, right? Because we were already thinking of a platform standpoint. While everything was going on, me and the product head and also one front end engineer, we played numerous games together to nail down the playing together mechanism. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We wanted to leverage products which users are already familiar with, right? And yeah, I also started creating numerous sketches to just understand the rough flow and showing to the team as well, which basically later on, obviously, I visualize the whole customer journey throughout nighting, what exactly the users will go through, what they can expect, what are the features we can build in each of those points, right? Again, not giving you the details, but just to show you how we did it, right? And also gathered the feedback from the team as well. While all of these things were going on, we went on to do multiple, concept testings and user testings with the real users. And the aim was multifold. One, obviously, is understanding how the users perceive the game playing experience while being in a video call. Second, building more and more conviction towards what we are building. And third, if we are missing out on something completely, significant. And these are the top insights which we repeatedly heard from the users. One is game like structure is very important as it distracts them from the awkwardness of a virtual date, right?
Mhm.
Second is they need explicit guidance and hand holding because they're not used to play a trivia game on a dating app. So telling them how to play, what to expect is very important. Third is keeping it fun and relaxed. If the date was not going well, participants wanted to be able to leave the game at any point in time, more so for the woman, to be honest. And the fifth part is very interesting, is like swapping the video and game positioning. But pretty obvious actually, because women participants basically said that, hey, I don't look good in this low angle. It's a date after all. Can we swap the mechanism? Which made a lot more sense because later on it basically became a one thumb experience afterwards. But anyway, moving on, we did bunch of explorations. Okay. Um, but some for some or the other reason nothing of this worked. Okay, but happy to talk about it afterwards, why it was happening, what was happening. Quickly I'll get into the visual design, but before that I was talking about the elevating the brand identity, right? So this is basically what we thought as a guideline that when we think about a Bumble video or game experience, we imagine a new level of interaction between people, which our product is about to offer. We want to make sure it is an immersive experience, it's a real-time experience, it's a controlled and safe environment, a new dimension of online dating. So those were the things which we were thinking, and based on that we basically built the experience as well. So yeah, by this time we're 15 brilliant minds, 100 plus cups of coffee, 1,000 plus of Slack messages, maybe more, I don't know. And a gazillion hours of meetings later, we launched Night In. What I'll quickly do is a 1 minute video, the launch video, and then we'll quickly get into what we built. Okay. Sorry, it should work. Yes. Fantastic. So quickly, okay. Um, so Night in Discovery is the first thing. Okay, I believe important things need important real estate. So, and we covered different customer journey points to showcase Night In, right? First thing first is the hero banner, right? While users are swiping left or right, they will come across it. And to know more, they basically click on this button, very non committal way, but you get to know about it. Second and third are more contextual, right? Uh, the second part is when you have matched with someone, we'll show you a tooltip on the Night In icon to know more. And if you want to know more, you get into it. The third part, which we talked about, remember that people actually move off from this app when they have shared their mobile numbers or social media details. That's exactly when we thought of that, hey, can we nudge in that particular way, that hey, there is something called night in and you can use it, right? So this broadly covers when and how we will discover night in. Moving on to one of the main points which we heard from the users is that they want explicit guidance and less surprises throughout the game, and even more so when they start the experience. So that's why you will see like lobby, like night in lobby, to give them enough time to check themselves out. After all, it's a date, and we have not reinvented the wheel here. It's very similar to how Zoom or Google Meet works, right? Second one is how to play. I believe long onboarding flows are redundant for the users, to be honest. Most users want to make intentful decisions. So how can you keep it minimal, to the point, and obviously funny, because that's what the main point over here is, like having fun while doing this. The third part is when the game is ended, we will guide you throughout. Everyone gets very generally nervous when there is a dead end, right? So how can you actually avoid that? So keeping them informed about next step is very important. So here you can keep talking or you can end the date, however you prefer. Then game like structure. Okay, once the game starts, we wanted to make sure that the game like structure is evident. So that's why one of the main goal is to make sure it's not awkward for the users. So you will see a lot of components and tools like, timer for each question, vibrant icons, question answer format, wrong correct answers, who have answered which questions, etc. All of those things are there, right? Next part is keeping it fun and relaxing. We have achieved it in various different formats, right? With dynamic content, etc. All of those 3D icons and whatnot, the immersiveness as well. But one particular thing which I wanted to talk about is basically we wanted to make sure participants are getting enough time to talk to each other in between those rounds of questions. That's why you will see that a timer of 1 minute 30 seconds, right? That you can wait for this moment and talk to each other how it's going, but also giving the ability to start the round right away at the time itself, giving you complete control however you prefer, right? And even after the game ends, you can keep talking because that's the aim, right? And the next part is safety tools, right? Because safety is very crucial here. You are always in complete control of the whole experience. One part of the safety is not feeling stuck with the game or with the person at all. Okay, so showing they can end it at any time they are feeling uncomfortable is very, very likely, right? So that's the one part. And second part is they can even switch off or on their video or audio call as as well at any point in time if they feel there is any disturbance in the background, or somebody's knocking in the door, or just like that. Okay, they need some time regardless. So that's that. And remembering your users preferences, right? That users wanted to swap the video positioning, video and game positioning. That was obviously so obvious, by the way, making it a one thumb experience as well. um, and you can control how users feel with these minor adjustments, and we did that with visual treatments like confetti, colors, dynamic content, and 3D illustrations. And very lastly, designing for intangible long term goals of the platform, right? Which gives emotional touch to the users, and making sure they are having fun instead of baseless competition. That's exactly why the game is not against each other, but playing together. And that's also why you will see the content is dynamic regardless of the score you are getting. Even if you're getting zero questions answered, at least you are in this together. And it changes with the questions you have answered exactly. And if you have given everything correctly, you get a confetti and you did it, we are proud of you, etc., etc. And quickly I'll get into the impact and next steps because that's the important part, obviously. One big thing is word of mouth, right? We saw a massive outburst on TikTok. These are basically people playing night in, and I clicked like a lot of screenshots, and I looked into the comment section that people are opening up Bumble once again because they wanted to play it. New people joining in as well, obviously. So much so that our system was actually down for almost like 30 minutes, 40 minutes after launching because we couldn't take the load. Don't know about if it is a good thing or bad thing, but yeah, it was highly appreciated by young millennials, Gen Z, and it was one of the main goals. Also, Nightin got a lot of eyes from the publishers like TechCrunch or Verge, saying we have nailed the next steps of dating, which is a great moment, to be honest. um, Quickly, I don't know if we can talk about the details, but okay, I
Yeah,
will
you've
quickly
plenty of time. Don't worry. You can talk away.
now. Okay. So yeah, there's generally a very positive experience, to be honest. Video calls were getting longer. 87% of these people said they would love to play it again. A lot of people said rated the game 4 and above, which is great. Registration went up significantly, and we acquired this Gen Z dating app called Fruits. I'm just quickly getting from this page, but that was fantastic. It was almost perfect, but not completely perfect. Okay, because I like to keep things real, that not everything went like all flowery and everything, right? So one thing which could be better, which is accessibility, right? That it was not inclusive of people who are just screen readers. There aren't any all text for such a visual heavy experience. And it was not just Nightin, but Bumble went through a complete accessibility auditing afterwards. And then second part which we knew of is that a lot of people asked for more games, because people were a super user of this app, and the feature. They basically got bored playing the same game with different people with the same question. So how can you do more of? But just because we had such a great experience and such a good impact, right? Nightin has basically become a platform where more and more games are coming along, not just virtual games, but also different kind of activities which you can do in real life, right? So yeah, that's the end of the presentation, the case study. And yeah, a few last thoughts which I like to keep it over here is that, one of the main reasons what I do and why I do is my team. And yeah, collaboration is the main game over here. How can you make sure that you are doing fun things with the people whom you like? And that's all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Ivy. That was great. Really interesting product, and I've lots of questions to get through that have
Sure,
come
sure.
through. But before that, just to say, it's really nice to see kind of the focus on the user throughout. Like really looking at what the user
Hmm.
wants and their feedback, but also the prioritization around safety was nice to see as well. So it was really nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, Okay, so before I jump on to some of our viewers' questions, I have one question myself just around kind of the research in general, because there was a couple of things you mentioned, surveys and feedback. We saw some
Hmm.
quotes there. That was
Hmm.
great. So
Hmm.
I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the research aspect and how, were there researchers on the team you were working with, and how, where in the process did research fit and that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. So, particularly for this project, we had a user researcher from the get going, just because it was such a 0 to 1 new initiatives project and the scope was much big, right? So, that the initial conviction building part, or something like we should build something like this, came from a mixed methodology of like qualitative research and quantitative research, which is like to call it a triangulation, right? It's always good to have like different kind of research together if it is possible, because you want to basically mitigate bias as much as possible, right? So the way me and the user researcher worked throughout is basically having a daily, or kind of a cadence basically, which worked like a brainstorming session, that hey, this is the kind of research will be required because there's an unknown here, or we have built something like some form of wireframing, etc., but we want to know that we are building in the right direction or not. So we have done some concept testing, so not just on trivia but on some other gaming ideas as well, that how people are reacting to it, etc., right? And also jotting down the questions together, because you have the ultimate outcome. This is the outcome I want from my research session. So on, if in order to do that, what are the kind of questions, what are the kind of situations we have to get the users in, and also like recruiting the right users as well, like what are the demographics, what are the if there is any gender part which are there, and age obviously particularly very important for this kind of project, right? So those are the things which we're working towards. And yeah, that's how we have worked across like concept testing or usability testing and whatnot, and obviously making sure that what are the surveys we are getting into. Plus, for example, we did our first beta testing in Canada How are they going through it, the funnel which I talked about, right? How many people are actually clicking on it, how many people are
Mhm.
playing through it, what is the completion rate, what are the initial feedback and whatnot. So yeah, and gathering those, so that's how we have worked together. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was a good to just understand that, and also nice to hear that, how much research was part of the process is always great.
Yes, yes, yes. But also another thing which I would love to talk about, because um, just also we have to develop a muscle of doing enough research and not overdoing it, or not often underdoing it as well, right? But yeah, it can't be a vicious cycle. So have enough and then move on, learn, ship and learn basically. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So one of the questions we have here is, were there any struggles in getting product sign-offs or any other major challenges you or your team faced during the process?
Oh, yeah. I mean, see, here's this thing which everyone should know, that healthy friction is supposed to happen, is part of the game. Okay. There will be no project which will go without friction. And one of these things, which one of my managers used to say, that argue to learn and not to win, right? So, because you are not supposed to know everything, right? Um, and in this particular project, I think product managers were not such a challenging issue, to be honest, but it was mainly from the operational side of things, right? Just because the team was very new, what should be our working model, how what should we expect from each other, what is going to happen, that those were very important for us. That was a crucial moment, that what to build, how to build, why to build it. And then another facet of challenge basically came because just because we wanted to elevate the brand identity, which basically means a lot of more work for the engineers, for the design systems part as well, is that we had to build a case that what are the other use cases in which we can use this, right? Just because we were thinking night in as a platform for long term goals, we could have that business capacity, right? That hey, it is not just for this feature we are building it, it's eventually will be built in different use cases within that Bumble flow.
Mhm.
Because ultimately you want to have a buy-in from that aspect, that because nobody wants to do a lot of um, patchy work, for particularly for this feature we have to build 10 new components, and then those components are not getting used. Nobody likes that. So how can you make a use case basically, that these components will be used in several different other flows in Bumble. So those were the main things which I remember.
Mhm.
Accessibility, obviously we knew it was a big problem, but it was not just in 19, it was also the problem with whole Bumble UX flows, again, which went through auditing afterwards for a um full quarter. Yep.
Mhm. Okay,
Mhm.
great. Yeah, it's good advice. I particularly like the argue to learn, not to win. I think that's,
Yeah, yeah, it's good, right? Yeah,
yeah.
if you see from that lens, like a lot of things gets easier. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, great. So one question here is kind of related to research as well, but somebody is just wondering, how is the decision made behind the 1.5 minutes of
Oh,
the time to chat? Was that based on research or how was that done?
yeah, it's a combination, like to be honest, like not all not absolutely granular stuffs always go through research.
Mhm.
It's a combination of your first principle thinking, hypothesis, and how much you have known your users for so long. So it's basically giving them enough time to talk to each other, but also like you can move on. uh,
Mhm.
and at the very end, if you want to have more time, you can even basically cancel the night in game, but keep on talking. That's also possible.
Mhm.
But 1.5 minutes basically came came in a way that all the team members felt like, yeah, this is basically a time which feels roughly good. And also we combined it with one of the concept testings we were doing, that hey, we're thinking of giving you this kind of a functionality. And basically people wanted that some form of a breathing room, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want, so that's how it came about, right?
Yeah.
And also the fact that if we give them a lot of control over that, hey, you can pause, you can talk for forever, then the game never gets end, right? So so if you want to end it, you can just end it regardless. So, yeah.
Mhm.
That's the part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice balance between the kind of the talking time, the game time, and
100%,
yeah.
100%. Because see, like in real life, when you are actually working on a product, there's high chance that you might not be able to do research on every facet of your feature. That's where basically your thinking come kicks in as a good designer and
Mhm.
as a good product person as well, right?
Yeah.
That for what is the right decision which we can take, like with our knowledge and context which we have, right?
Yeah. Okay, great. Um, and so one person is asking just about why did the product have to be delivered within 3 months, and how was that timeline agreed on? Who decided the timeline?
Yeah, good question. First thing first, I think the context was lockdown. Okay, we wanted to push it out while lockdown was still relevant, right? Because it's basically a virtual date ecosystem. It's kind of like a due diligence before you go out with your this match. It's basically seeing that if this person worth my 2 3 hours or whatever it is, from the safety of your own place for 20 to 25 minutes, you do some sort of a due diligence, as I like to call it. The this idea, like, hey, we want to get into Gen Z users and engage them with Bumble, was top down, basically coming from C-suite. But how we do it, how we deliver it, is completely upon us. So that's how the timeline was worked upon, that hey, we have to do it within this. And this was actually launched kind of in the similar timeline of Valentine's Day of 2021, somewhere in February. So that's how also we worked backwards as well. That hey, this is the timeline we are thinking of, and then work backwards every week, every 2 weeks, what do we have to achieve. So yep,
Yeah.
how it was done.
Yeah, it's kind of I'm sure you weren't, or it's definite you guys weren't the only company kind of under a timeline in relation to COVID, and
Yeah,
having to make product changes and
yeah,
to adapt. I guess this is just a question that's come to my mind around, in your experience as a product design manager, how do you manage kind of expectations around timelines if they're a little bit unrealistic, or how do you negotiate that with stakeholders? Do you have any advice
yeah.
on that?
100%. So let me start by saying this, that timeline is one such thing which is never worked upon in silo, and it should not. Okay, you don't want to have that kind of conversation or back and forth where you have decided upon some timeline and people don't know about it. But generally, timeline is something which you get to work with the product manager, your manager sometimes, and the like your day-to-day working buddies, engineers, researchers, content designers, and whatnot. um, it generally becomes realistic, but sometimes it has happened with all of us, including me, that we are not getting to meet that timeline which we agreed upon. And that's basically most of the time what has happened, is that we actually uncovered more facets while working on the designs or while actually going through research, etc. So you'll always have some buffer time. That's also a good team does, by the way. It's never like tight part where you don't have any buffer. This project also had buffer, right?
Mhm.
If something goes hazy, we should have 1 or 2 weeks of buffer. uh, but yeah, so for example, sometimes it has happened that hey, we thought it is a pretty simple straightforward thing, but there were more nuances to gender, for example, pronouns and whatnot, how it should be stacked, ranked, and whatnot. So we worked with third party people and realized that hey, this is not how it should be done, and 1 week got added more. So it's not just upon any particular person, it's basically about the context gathering, and sometimes people miss out on it. It's very, I mean, if you're not missing out on any context most of the time, fantastic, you're a genius. But this is how generally it happens, that you while you are actually scoping the project, the timeline gets worked upon. And if you are a good designer with experience, you'll also realize that if something takes, for example, 2 days for you, never say 2 days, say 3 days or 3.5 days, something like that. Have some buffer for yourself as well. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's good advice, I guess, to give yourself a little bit of time for the unexpected things that will inevitably turn up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So um yeah, you will realize that a lot of the job, a lot of the basically work in this job is expectation management as well, which
Mhm.
people are doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part and parcel of your job. Don't think that you don't like it, because it will be a part and parcel of your job.
Yeah.
Designing is not only designing is not your job. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. So there's another question here, just kind of back to research and specifically wondering, how did you research elements that were more desirable for users? And did you use any specific tools or methods? And how did you evaluate the data?
Ooh, good question. So particularly, the elements which we did, that you will see 3D elements, right? Mainly because we wanted to give that immersive game-like um, placement. So for some things, we didn't do too much research, okay? Because we saw that how are the other gaming apps are being worked upon, who are the users who are already using them, what are
Mhm.
the elements which are there, right? And that is somewhat getting inspiration from there, right? That people are already liking it. So why not do something in that direction, right? And once we have some, most of the times, to be honest, so this is another thing, right? You don't always ask your users what do you want. You show them this is what we have built, and put the narrative in such a way that if they have any glaring problems with that or not, right? Because if you lead a question with do you like it or not, you might not get a very good answer, right? So that's where your researcher might come in and be like how to frame a question as well. So yeah, as I was saying, so we have done research, but it is not a net new research. It's research is also about what are the insights we already have. It might not be in the dating industry particularly, but similar social media, for example, right? So those kind of elements, yes. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, especially on a project perhaps where you are short on time or short on resource in terms
Yeah,
of research.
yeah,
Some kind of competitor analysis, like you've mentioned, where you look at what others are doing, either in your industry or in a similar industry,
yeah.
can be a great way to get quick insights, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should say actually everything is research. So don't think research is just doing one way of doing things where you are just talking to users and getting the insights from them, right? Because a lot of the product managers actually has this challenge with a lot of designers, is that they keep doing research and they don't deliver sometimes on time. So it's basically a balancing act because every project will have their constraints and timeline is one such thing, right? So you need to use this as well. So
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I think the balancing act is good advice to. We don't want to say don't do any research, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay. Perfect. So there's a question here: if Night In became more successful than it already is, do you think it would ever be separated into its own app?
Sorry, I need to say that that's my smoke alarm, everyone. It's just in such a interesting position that I just can't get a ladder right now. Sorry about that. But yeah, sorry, you
Don't
were
worry.
saying.
No, it was just if Night In became more successful than it already is, do you think it
Yeah.
would ever be separated into its own app?
No, no, not really. No, we didn't have any plans as such till the time I was there, to be honest. Um, because Bumble have, as I was saying, like date is one such thing which you predominantly see. Then if BFF is another one, then Biz is another one. Like these are the three spectrums in which Bumble works, and it was very much the idea to keep it within one single family. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Um,
Because it's basically like it's in a flow, right? You are supposed to date with someone and you are doing these activities and moving forward. So there was no good reasoning for us to actually challenge that, right? So yeah.
mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Um, there's so many good questions. It's hard to choose some, but I'm trying to pick the ones that are kind of getting the most upvotes. But
Sure.
one that I think is really interesting because actually at the UX Design Institute we are have an upcoming course in content design and
Mhm.
UX writing, and I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, how did you go about writing the actual trivia quizzes, or how did that work, or how do you write the content within the app? Because I saw, nice prompts about, reminding people that it's about the date, don't get in an argument about the quiz. It was
Yeah.
nice tone of voice, and who worked on that side of things.
It's our content designer actually. Nowhere I can take the credit, right?
Mhm.
Bumble is also, I believe every product should have a content designer, but Bumble is more so because of the kind of product it is. All right, all this interesting content which you get to see, it's from one of my colleagues, ex-colleagues, Kirsten. It's very witty, it's very fun.
Mhm.
Dynamic, right? And generally we work together very closely even on the information architecture, because if you remove the content out of any product, just do it once, like in your Figma file, you will see that it's just visuals. It
Mhm.
says nothing, it tells you nothing, right? So it's very important to give information in the way it's supposed to be shown, and where to show, how much to show, what voice and tone it should have, etc., etc. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. We'd definitely be advocates of the importance of content design as well. So we're excited to be launching this course soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bumble has a whole content design team which works within the design part as well. Like, so there's product design, content design, research, and you have design systems, etc. So yeah, it's very much of a part of the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And someone else is just wondering, how did you decide what the look and feel would be? And did you involve a UI designer, and at what stage?
Uh, By the way, just a quick thing. I am a digital product designer. The whole team is digital product designers team. So you are supposed to do end-to-end product, right? So it includes UX, it includes UI, it includes your knowledge in product. It includes also your bit of knowledge about psychology, how humans behave, basically. So no, there was no UI designer involved. What happened is that, by the way, the 3D icons and everything, we did it with the brand designer. Okay, so it's from the marketing side of things, and we did multiple different types of color combinations and whatnot. It basically, the elements which I talked about, right? It has to feel soft, it has to feel tactile, it has to feel immersive. So all of those elements, and we put it in the color gradients as well. That what actually makes sense for this game, plus what also has to work within the Bumble brand family as well, right? Which actually feels like Bumble, but more to that, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's how we went about it and did multiple explorations, to be honest, and then settled within this color gradient model. And then on top of it, 3D, will it be matte finished or glossy or something? All of those elements were there. But yeah, it was basically me and the brand designer working on it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge when you create a product almost within a product. So you want to stay true to the Bumble brand, and
It has
it's
to feel like it's part of the same team.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Family. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. Okay, great. So I saw a question earlier actually, which I was interested in too, because we get asked this a little bit, which is about, was there any coding involved, or sometimes a question we're asked is, do UX designers need to know
Yeah.
how to code?
Yeah. Um, no. So in generally, no. You don't need to code. You will have front end engineers and back end engineers, etc. So I have never coded in my life. I don't know how to do
Mhm,
coding, not even HTML, CSS, etc. However, having said that, it will be for your own benefit. If you can understand bit of the coding part, just like very very basic HTML, CSS, and how things work, how interaction works, it will be for your benefit. But it's not a must have. Like, I have also not hired people generally for their coding skills, right?
mhm,
If people happen to know, fantastic, but you will not use it as much. But for example, if you're very interested within design systems, right, then get to know coding, how exactly it happens, right? So that is very important. But yeah, regardless, there is no harm. If you want to know, if you want to know more, like how it actually gets built, go for it. You can have
mhm.
a very good relationship with the engineers as well, right? But no, good to have, not must have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think we'd agree with that as well at the UXDI. We yeah, working with developers and making life easier, working with developers. We actually have a course dedicated all to that. So we definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question here is just, how was this accepted in different countries? And what
Mhm.
about the over 25-year-old group feel? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Particularly, okay. So first of all, like we built it mainly for the Gen Z and young millennials. But having said that, it is open for everyone. Okay.
mhm,
So if you want to use it, it go for it. Uh, However, the caveat being that it is only for people who likes to do video call, right? Because it is built on top of it, right? So if you don't like doing that, this is not for you. So what Bumble has also realized, I think the product part is that you can't build features, every feature or every tool for every one of your users. It's not possible. Not every size fits all. Basically, same thing. But how can you still have a meaningful base of users who are using that product, right? Um, so yeah, on that. So how it was perceived. Generally predominantly very good. Okay, obviously people wanted, as I was saying, more games, at least more questions and whatnot, and we have been building that. So that's one thing, but people generally liked that refreshing part, that hey, I can do some things like this on this app with my match and have a good time, have a fun time, right? A lot of my friends actually used it, and a lot of my second degree connections did that and told me that hey, I used it and it's nice, it's fascinating, so thank you. But yeah, so it's basically a very fun thing to do. So generally had a very good uh, feedback from everyone who have used it. I'm so sorry, now it's becoming annoying, this local.
don't worry, don't worry about it. These things happen. Um, okay, great. Yeah, it's always good to get positive feedback and for some.
Yeah, yeah. Generally, it was positive, obviously, but some people, I mean, as I was saying, that is not for everyone. If you don't like doing video calls, you can't do this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, perfect. So I think we have time for one or maybe two more questions, but we'll go with one for the moment, which is I think you mentioned releasing a beta version first, and someone's just wondering, did you release a beta version for testing, or did you test prior to launch offline?
We did multiple different testing just within, for example, we are in a video call, like the whole team was on a video call and we were doing pair testing. Yeah, because we were supposed to play it together. We had a excel sheet. All right, so any kind of bugs or interaction problems we are facing, we were just writing it down because it helps everyone, and you will see that happening quite a lot if you're working on like end-to-end features. Not much for A/B testing or small scope of projects, but any kind of big scope of projects will have that. So we did multiple testing like that within the team. Then we had like Bumble wide event while everybody was playing and giving feedback. And then the beta actually was released in Canada in Jan 2021, if I'm not wrong. And that was launched for some folks in Canada. We had some user demographics and whatnot, and just to gather their feedback as well and how they're playing what we are seeing for a week. And then we launched um, globally.
Mhm.
I think not globally. I would say first North America, then obviously UK came along, and then India also happened, and then Australia, New Zealand. Yeah, mainly the English-speaking countries. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ivy, for your time. I won't take up any more of it, but thank you so much for talking to me this evening, for the brilliant presentation, and yeah, it was just all really great to hear about
For having me. Yeah,
a
really
really interesting.
appreciate it. Yeah. If you folks have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, had a great time. Hopefully, it was helpful. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, night, evening,
Yeah,
afternoon, everyone.
whatever time people are in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Ivy. And for anybody who's interested, I'm just going to share my screen for a minute or two, just with some details of the courses that we provide at the UX Design Institute. But yeah, just to say thank you once more, and yeah, we'll talk to you again.
Thank you. Bye bye.